Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm currently sitting in the car and me and my dad are going to be filming a kind of university question and answer video. I've asked you guys for loads of questions on the post part of YouTube and you guys have asked a lot of questions. So for those of you who don't know, my dad is an admissions tutor. He has been for over 10 years and he's worked at various universities, been to university, all that kind of jazz, and I'm really privileged to have him at my disposal, so I thought he could answer some of your questions as well. We are filming this as a drive with me because we're actually driving to Exeter University, and I don't have a car mount and I'm filming on my vlog camera, so if anything is shaky, there's any light streaks or just any general bad filming, that is why. I'm currently waiting in the car. My dad's just sorting out some last bits and bobs because we are going away for the weekend because we're going to Exeter and Exeter is quite far away. So he's sorting out some stuff. He'll be here in a sec, but I've got quite a lot of questions, so we're gonna probably just answer loads of them. It might be a long video and I might leave timings in the description box if you just want specific questions and you don't want to watch the whole video. So if I remember to do that, I will do that, if there's enough questions. But yeah, I'm going to stop this recording now and wait for my dad to come back, and yeah. So I'm now with my dad. Hello. Hello. So I'm going to get up some questions that you guys have asked and you can answer them. We can both answer some of them, to be fair. Some of them can be answered by both of us, but I think it's more directed at you. A lot of them are about personal statements. A lot of them are quite similar and about personal statements. Someone has said, I'm going to keep these anonymous, but someone has said, how can you make sure that your passion gets through in your personal statement? Any thoughts on that, Dad?
Be honest and tell the university what you are really keen on. Don't sort of say, oh, I'm really keen on marine biology because you think it will impress them. So if you've got a passion for stamp collecting or following Leicester City or whatever, or drama or something like that says something about you, be honest and say what you do and why you like it. I think this is just my own personal preference, but I actually like to get a bit of a feel for the person, what they're like and why they'll make a contribution to my university and my course. So I'm quite happy for people to say what their personal interests are.
So it's not just about the academic course,
it's about the whole person,
but everything. Yeah.
Well, some universities might want to see a detailed discussion of the subject,
like Oxford and Cambridge, for example.
Whereas for me, I want to know what makes this person special, and I want to get a bit of a feel for what sort of a person they are and whether they'll be able to make a success of the course they do.
Okay, this same person has asked, what do you know about scholarships and bursaries at university and how do you get them? I don't really know very much about that either, to be honest.
No, I don't. To be fair, I don't know a great deal about them, but what I would say to all potential students is ask the question, are scholarships and bursaries available, because in the light, first of all, of student fees, and then also of a very competitive student recruitment market, more universities are offering scholarships and bursaries.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know you could get a scholarship.
Yep, ask the question, because if there's money out there, you might as well have it.
And someone else, the same person as well, has said, should I get work experience myself or wait till after university? I mean, for me, I'd say it depends what course you're applying for. So if you're applying for medicine or something like that, then you do need work experience. But for me, I'm applying for psychology, so I don't really need work experience. I think it really depends on the course you're considering for that one.
It does, and if you have a course which has professional elements, which mine does, then if someone's done work experience before they come to university, or indeed they can tell you about it when they see you, when they meet you as part of the application process, that always looks really good. I'm always impressed by that. But one little word of warning and caution is that in recent years, in the last 10 years, work experience has become harder to get for people who are under 18. So it's often, it's often very difficult for under 18s to get work experience, which means that people applying for university who are typically 17 might not have had the chance. So in that case, what they should do is make arrangements to do work experience when they get to 18, so they can say to a university lecturer that they meet, I haven't been able to do it now because I'm not 18 yet, but I've got plans to do it as soon as I can. The only other thing with work experience I would say to everyone who's doing exams is, if you're doing exams, the most important things are your exams. So if it's a choice
there's no point in getting 3 C's and work experience when you could get like 3 A's and no work experience.
And of course, during any university degree, there's always plenty of opportunity within there to do work experience or voluntary work, often as part of the degree programme. So it's good to do it before you go to uni, but if you don't get the chance, you will have the opportunity to do it while you are at uni.
Yeah. Okay, there's somebody is asking questions about exams that I've literally never heard of. It's asking about TOFEL and IELETS. Have you ever heard of those?
Yep.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah. So
this person has said, is it a requirement to sit those 2 exams if I'm applying as an international student?
It will, you're looking at the exams for standards of English, and that's what those 2 are, particularly IELTS, which is the second one, right? So the answer is, it depends on the requirements of your course, but if a student is an overseas student for whom English is not their first language, then they will probably need to do an IELTS test to see what standard of language is, and most universities will be looking for a standard of 7.0, 7.5 or something like that. Okay. If a student is an overseas student but English is either their first language or a very close second language, like it might be for people from Hong Kong or India, for example, then they're going to be absolutely fine with the level of English. So, so it depends on the course.
You've taught a lot of international students as well, haven't you?
I have, I've taught lots.
Yeah. Okay. The most frequently asked question that I noticed actually is there any major turn-offs when you're reading a personal statement, you're just like, nah, something that you definitely shouldn't do when you're writing a personal statement?
Your first question said, how did you show your passion? And
that's a different person.
Yeah, I know, it was your first question.
Oh, yeah.
And I find the word passionate is overused in personal statement. Yep. It used to be alright, but now it's sort of everybody uses it. So the other thing is, you have to sell yourself, but you don't want to sound like God's gift. So if you want to do medicine, you don't want to say, I'm going to be an absolutely brilliant surgeon and cure all the world's diseases. So there has to be a balance between selling yourself and modesty. So that is, you would say that you were really interested in this subject and that you were really keen to find out more about it, rather than saying, I'm really good at this. Okay. So you've got to sell yourself, but not sound like a big head, basically.
Yeah.
That always puts me off. If I'm reading a statement from someone who is claiming to know more about my subject than I do,
it's like, no.
I'm not impressed. No.
How do foreign students apply to university?
It depends on the individual university's admissions processes.
Okay.
So an overseas student, the first thing they would do is have a look at the university's website and see how applications are made, because there's all sorts of different ways of studying as an overseas student as well, because there are exchanges, there's the Erasmus program in Europe, and then there's just coming to university and studying there. So you would have to check each individual university's processes.
Okay, so you can't go through UCAS, which I assumed.
I don't know. I don't know. Some overseas students do go through UCAS. I don't know whether they all do. That is a technical question. Most of the students that I deal with come through UCAS, but it's possible that some don't. So the best advice is for applicants to check what each university does.
What are the main things to include in a personal statement?
I don't work for Russell Group University, so what I want to see in a personal statement is the fact that the person is very keen on my subject, why they're very keen on my subject, why they'll make a success of it, and I also want to know a bit about them as a person, why why are they special? Why should I take them as opposed to the other people who have applied? So a bit about you know, something unusual about them. Something. What do they like doing in their spare time? What's the biggest achievement?
Yeah.
That
So like for me, I wrote about my YouTube channel because not a lot of people do YouTube.
Yeah, it makes you special. It makes you different. It makes you stand out.
So if I just write about like DOV and volunteering, like a lot of people have done that. It's almost expected. So it's just boring.
I think so. I think it. I want to know that they are keen on my subject. I've had personal statements in the past which actually talk about other subjects when they're applying for my subject. Which is actually quite tricky. If you're a student who is applying for a number of different courses at different universities, you can't be specific on your personal statement because that's got to work across the 5 applications.
Yeah, there's a question about that actually. So we can
say if you've just applying for one subject, say you're just applying for history, you can talk about why you're really interested in history and why you want to study history further. So it's got to be specific. It's no good. They've got to talk about my subject, I think.
I've had a few questions about disabilities at university as well. Somebody had asked, will I have issues at university being deaf? We were at Birmingham actually, and there was a deaf girl. Was she deaf or blind? I'm not sure, but she was saying deaf, and she, I mean, this is just Birmingham, so I don't know about others, but she went to the like disability area and they were really supportive of her, she was saying. But I think you get disability help at university quite often.
Yeah, I can answer this one in some detail actually.
Okay.
What ought to happen, and I say ought, at the best universities, it should make no difference whether you are able-bodied or whether you have some kind of physical or learning disability, because the best universities have tried to adopt systems where all the learning is available to all the students regardless of their of any learning difficulty. So, or I should say learning difference. So for example, at my old university we got rid of exams because people with declared disabilities needed extra time for exams, and that just singled them out as different. So we replaced them with coursework which people can do in their own time. I think that's fairer.
Yeah, that's better.
What I would say to anyone who's concerned about that is ask that question when you visit the university. That's the first thing.
Yeah, there's usually like a little like some staff who are like specialised in that stuff, isn't there?
And all staff should know about it because it's really important. The other thing is when you arrive at the university, or even before as part of your application, declare any disability, and then the university is aware of it and can put measures in to support it if that support is necessary to sort of level the playing field, if you like. So I've taught students who have multiple and severe disabilities, and measures have always been able to be put in place to help them study the course. You know, students who couldn't actually use their hands.
Yeah.
I've had a dog in my sessions, a helping dog.
Oh right, I was going to say
no,
a dog studying.
I didn't teach a dog. No, yes. So I had a student who had a helping dog who would come and get things for the student.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. So I think most universities will be set up really well to help anybody who needs that help. But students, it's no good saying I'm not going to tell the university about this or whatever. What students need to do is declare any kind of physical disability or any kind of learning difference, and then the university can put measures in place to help them.
Yeah. So another question I've got is how to make the best out of open days, and I guess we've both been doing this because we've been to quite a lot of open days together, haven't we? Should I talk about this one?
You start off with that.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, before you've got to work out which open days you're going to, and then when you know what open days you're going to, have a look on the timetable for the day and work out what you want to go to. So if you're, say, wanting to look at psychology, which I am, you'll probably want to go to psychology taste selections, and you can put those in your personal statement as well, and the introduction to psychology, and we've been going to a lot of introduction talks to the university as a whole, which is really good. So make sure you get down all the talks that you want to go to and write them down, and make sure that you've got space for them all, and then you can kind of plan out your day. So if you've got a bit of space, you can maybe go look at accommodation, or you can go look around the campus at the library, or go have a look at the town, and factor in time for lunch and walking between places. But if you plan it properly, so you can get a lot out of it. And I found for collegiate universities like Durham, York, Cambridge and stuff like that, look into all of the colleges before you go and make a rank of which ones you like the look of best, and then you can on the day go to the ones that you've given the highest ranking and actually give them a proper look, because there's no point in just going to random ones and hoping that you'll find one that you like, because you might have missed one that you do want to look at, if you get what I mean. Yeah, and have you got any thoughts about making the best out of university open days?
Two things, very simple. Open days are there for you to find out whether you're interested in the course, and Rhiannon's just talked to you about that and how to make the most of that. But they're also there, I think, to allow you to ask yourself if you think you'll be happy at that university.
Yeah, and you get a gut feeling, don't you?
In that town, yes. So it's not just about how good the course is, it's about the feel that you get for the university and the
everything, really.
And the town, that's right. And I always say to people, it's like a gut feeling in the car on the way home.
You're just like, yes.
So tomorrow afternoon, you and me will leave the university we're visiting.
Hopefully I'll like it.
And we will talk about it, and we'll say
it was rubbish, or I loved it.
Yeah. Well, what you think about it is what I think about it.
I mean, for me personally, the accommodation is a really big issue as well, because I'm a bit of a snob. Well, not a snob, but like I want to know that I'm going to be living somewhere that I really like and that I like have an ensuite and everything. And then like having a library close by and some nice shops, and like, I don't know, I'm very fussy, but yeah, just make sure you plan it properly and you have a look at everything. You go in with an open mind and you'll get the best out of it. And if you miss anything, you can email the tutors afterwards. You can look on the website. You can go visit the place in like even if it's not an open day. How do people get unconditional offers? There's not really a specific way to get one. If they're predicted to get really good grades and they've got an awesome personal statement, then and if they go to interview, I used to do the odd unconditional offer. If someone came to an interview and they were just absolutely brilliant, you knew they'd make a success of it, and you really wanted them.
An unconditional offer is a university's way of saying to someone, we really, really rate you, we really want you to come on our course.
Yeah, we're on the motorway now, guys.
Well, technically it's an A road, but it's a dual carriageway.
I don't know.
So it's going to be a little straighter now.
Yes, the camera hopefully won't. It must have been moving a lot, so I'm really sorry. That probably was really annoying. Unconditionals are funny though. Like, I feel like just because you get an unconditional doesn't mean you should accept it. Well,
unconditionals, to some extent, I feel may be designed to flatter the student into accepting the university.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I don't think unconditional offers are helpful because they distort the application process, and they may encourage students to take the foot off the gas with their studies, which isn't a good thing.
And then you lose your momentum.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes it's really good if it's the university you actually would have put as your firm, and you know that you'd be stressed trying to get the grades for it, then that is good, but you shouldn't accept an unconditional for somewhere you wouldn't have gone if you hadn't got an unconditional.
No,
I don't think.
I think unconditional should be used in a more limited way of perhaps making offers to students with disabilities who might struggle with A-levels but would be alright with coursework based degree work. And I think but being used just to sort of encourage really good students to come to your university, I'm not as comfortable with that.
They are good though. Like, I mean, if I got one, I'd be like, that's pretty cool. Okay, when would you recommend to get started with writing a personal statement, applying, looking at accommodation, etc.?
Go to your first open days in the summer, in the June and July of the year before you want to go to university. If you think about it, we did 3 in June and July. Make sure you do the summer ones, because if you don't, and you've found this out, what happens is all the autumn open days start to clash with each other.
Yeah, and there's so many, and you've got so much on at the beginning of year 13.
Well, realistically, you've only got about 8 weekends in September, October, so you could only visit 8, and that's if you went to one every weekend.
Yeah.
And your folks aren't going to want to do that.
No, and I mean, next weekend I'm on DOV, and Bristol, Cardiff and Bath only have an open day on that day, and I can't go to any of them, so I really wish I'd gone to them last year. Even if you do have AS, try and go to them as soon as possible, because so much is going on at this time of year. Like, you've got to have your personal statements, and you just want to know which ones that you want to go to rather than still not be sure. Because like, I literally, the only open day that I've been like, yes, I definitely want to go there is York. So I'm like, I'm not stressed because I'm fine, but it would be probably better if I had more of an idea of more that I wanted to go to.
So do the summer open days in June and July, and then do some of the autumn ones in September and October.
Yeah. and also it's about applying to universities. The absolute deadline is the 15th of January to apply with your personal statement and everything, but really you should apply before then, like in November.
The other part of the question was about personal statements, and what I would say with that is just go, well, just think about what you want to put in and then be governed by the timetable that your school or college sets for you.
And if you're applying yourself,
individually,
then just start as soon as you can, and make sure you're organised so you can leave yourself a lot of time to make sure that it's perfect. What can I do in year 12 to prepare myself for university, which is kind of similar to what we just talked about, the lower sixth, as you call it?
Yeah, well, as soon as you go into year 12, really, or at least just after Christmas, you should be thinking about where you want to go to university.
And what you want to do.
We haven't talked about this yet. Yeah, there's several factors involved. You have to think about if there's anywhere in the country you'd particularly like to be. That's important.
How far away from home as well.
Exactly. And I always say far enough away from home so that you're not tempted just to come back up every weekend, but close enough to home so that if you do want to come back, you can come back relatively quickly and inexpensively.
But then I guess it is also personal preference. Like some people want to get as far away as possible, and some people actually want to live at home and go in the local city. It does depend, but I think that is a pretty good balance for most people.
So I had a load of friends who were surfers, and they all wanted to go to like South Coast universities so they could do surfing.
Yeah.
That's one thing, and then the next thing is looking at the course you want to do and seeing which universities do courses which suit you.
Yeah, and you might not be sure, like at open days, if you're not sure, go and look at lots of different departments and see what floats your boat, because like I still wasn't sure. Like we were looking at history and psychology in June and July, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
So, and in order to do that, you need to you'll probably look at university league table rankings, which is fair enough.
For your course that you want to do.
For the overall university and for your course, if they break it down that far. Also, Teaching Excellence Framework or TEF ranking. Now that's ranked gold, silver, bronze. 20% of universities are in the gold, 20% are in the bronze, and the rest are in the silver. So if you have a gold ranked university overall or department, that's really good. It means they're good, or they're rated as good at teaching students. If they have a bronze rating, you need to make your own mind up about how you feel about that, because the other thing is these rankings lag behind what the university is doing. So if you apply for a subject at a university and you find it's got a bronze, that bronze will refer to what it's doing the last year.
Yeah, and they might have already made the effort to make it better.
Yeah. You can bet your bottom dollar that the people who run the university will have said to that department, you need to pull your finger out. And when you go to the open day, you can make an assessment of what you think of the lecturers and the courses, and they ought to have done stuff to improve.
Yeah, that's what we thought at York, because when I looked at it initially in like April, it was on a low silver, but we went in July and they were on a gold, so we're like, they've gone up quite a lot. They must have done something to make it better, because obviously, and I thought the quality there was quite good. Like a lot of the professors, like the high professors, were teaching students, which was quite good. Would you recommend going to a Russell Group university?
Right, I always recommend going to a university which suits the individual student best. Not all students can go to a Russell Group university, but, and you know I feel strongly about this,
you're so passionate about this.
A lot of colleges get hung up on the number of their students who go to the Russell Group. Okay, now the Russell Group has a lot of prestigious universities in, which I'm sure have good staff and good subjects or whatever, but the Russell Group is a self-selected group, so they decided who was in it, and its primary characteristic is its universities which have a research focus. So it's often referred to as the top 20 universities in the country. It isn't, because they're not all in the top 20.
Continue your rant.
Right, so it's not really a rant, it's just if people get hung up, schools shouldn't get hung up on on students going to a Russell Group university. You have to go to a university which is best for you, depending on what you want. And the Russell Group is primarily research-intensive universities, and no 18-year-old, 19-year-old undergraduate goes to a university at that stage to do research, although research will feature in teaching.
Yeah.
What I think students should be looking at is how well they will be taught and looked after at the university, and that is, whoa.
Oh, hello.
Bad driving ahead.
I know that's bad driving, and I've only had 5 lessons.
Oh, bloody hell.
What have you just done?
That was just a piece of rock hitting the windscreen from the car that's just done the really bad driving. Anyway. So, pick the university that's good for you. Bear in mind that Russell Group does not equal teaching excellence. Russell Group equals self-selected research focus. So
that was selected in like 1920 or something.
They met in a hotel in Russell Square in London, which is why they're called the Russell Group, and they decided who was there. And some really good universities decided not to take part in the Russell Group.
Yeah, there's a lot of good universities that aren't in it. So like
Correct.
UEA, Surrey, Sussex.
I don't know who's in it and who's not in it, but
we had to say at school, we had to make a list of the 20 Russell Group universities, or however many it is, so I know all of them.
Sixth forms seem to be fixated on it. I used to be a governor of a sixth form, and they used to go on about how many of the students went to Russell Group, and I used to say to them, it really doesn't matter how many of your students go to the Russell Group, it matters how many of your students go to universities that suit them. And if you're a student who you know your best effort is going to get you 3 C's, and that's your potential at A level, then
you shouldn't define yourself by if you're going to a Russell Group or not.
What you want is a university that will take you on 3 C's and help you develop further.
Yeah.
So if all you're going to get at uni at A level is 3 C's, you're not going to get to go to a Russell Group, and you should not feel a failure if you don't go to Russell Group University. My old university, it was a former polytechnic, and it worked very hard on its learning and teaching, and it got a gold teaching excellence framework ranking, and it deserved it because it put a lot of effort into teaching.
And it's not recognised as a good university because it's an old polytechnic.
And I can say for sure that the students that went there were largely very well looked after by the academic and professional services staff.
Yeah, and also the teaching excellence framework, if you actually look at it, there's a lot of Russell Group universities that are quite low.
Yeah.
And I don't want to throw shade at any universities, but like we were looking at Southampton, and that's in the Russell Group, and that's a bronze.
I think it was in the initial one, but you'd have to check that.
It might have changed, I don't know, but when they I mean, now they're all making an effort to make it better because now it's in the public eye.
But that was the big story. When the TEF rankings first came out, they were Russell Group universities got bronze TEF rankings, and that didn't surprise me, because if you are a university which focuses on your research to the detriment of your teaching, then you're going to get a bronze ranking. So what universities should do is they should be good at research, but they should also ensure A, they're good at teaching, and B, they're going to look after the students who go there.
Yeah, and then if I'm applying to 2 different courses at 2 different universities, one's in my firm and one's in my assurance, can my personal statement just include my firm choices option and why I feel passionate about that course only, or do I have to include both courses in the personal statement?
That's a good question. The answer is it's up to you. If you think you're going to get your firm choice and you're not bothered about your insurance, then just talk about the subject for your firm. If, however, you want to spread your bets a bit, you can say in your personal statement, I'm applying for a range of different courses, and so I'm going to mention why I'm interested in each of them. Now that may put off a university which prides itself on its course, but it will mean that you don't offend the one that isn't mentioned.
You can do it quite tactically, because I was going to have to write a personal statement that encompassed history and psychology at one point, because I was thinking of doing
It's very difficult to do that.
But it's difficult, yeah. But it is, like, that's probably what I would have done.
The way personal statements work do count really against you if you've got 2 different subjects, and I often have students who've applied for a couple of different subjects, or who are applying for joint subjects, and so it's more difficult to write a statement which seems to be fair to both those subjects.
It says how to summarise all the things you've done in a personal statement, and so personally for me, if you've done a lot of things, I don't think you should summarise it all and make them seem of less quality just so that you've mentioned them all. I think you should focus on your best things. because you've got to have better ones if you've done loads. But yeah, I think it's more about quality, not quantity. So mention a few things and talk about them more than mention loads of things and just move from one to another. I don't know.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, and therefore you wouldn't necessarily say I've got my grade 8 piano if you've been captain of the cricket team and appeared as the lead in
Matilda or something.
Yeah, in a college production or something. Pick out, as I've said before, pick out things that say something about your breadth of interests.
Yeah, and things that are different, because I feel like, I don't know, lots of people have done D&V, lots of people, you know, play like an instrument or something, or if it's kind of generic and you've got other things that are better, they're more worth mentioning because the word count is really short. We were trying to edit my personal statement down yesterday, and it's really hard to get it down because you just have to like be really careful and be like interchanging words to make it shorter, shortening your sentences, and it is quite difficult. So I think you're better to not try and include loads of stuff because you'll probably go over your word count. Somebody has asked, like, what is it actually like to be at university?
Okay, apart from the birth of your children, which obviously I've got to say, it's the best 3 years of your life.
The birth of your children?
Yeah. Well, when your children are small, that's really good as well.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well,
none of them can relate to that.
All right, so if you haven't been to university yet, it's likely to be the best 3 years of your life so far.
Well, you said that that's when you were the happiest in your whole life.
Intellectually stimulating. I've been happy many times in my life, but I was definitely happy for my 3 years at university. I had a great time. Admittedly, that was a long time ago, but I see my students now having a great time, and they tell me how they feel when they're finished.
Yeah.
And they've had a great time, and it stays the same. That stays the same.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to go to university because you've always told me how good it was, and like I've heard about like.
I hope I haven't built it up too much.
Yeah, I hope you don't let me down, Dad. I hope it's not shit and I actually hate it. And I'm like, Dad just made me think it was going to be really good and it wasn't.
My students generally have a good time. Not all of them, but most of them have a good time. And then we're now in an age where we know lots of people just a bit older than you who've already gone to uni, who are going to uni, and they generally have a good time. It doesn't work out for everybody, but I suppose the key message is if you are careful and sensible about how you choose a university, you've got more chance of making sure that that's the right university for you. And we're not live streaming.
Yeah, should we conclude the video?
Yes.
Alright, so everybody, I think that just about wraps it up. We've answered the majority of the questions and we've covered like all the topics. I'm sorry for any wobbly camera or background noise or bad angles throughout this video, but I hope it's been useful all the same. So say goodbye. Goodbye
from the M6.
I will see you guys soon for a brand new video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this and enjoyed meeting my dad. If you would like
First and last appearance on YouTube.
If you would like any more videos with him, I was about to say, let me know. I mean, would you want to do any more videos?
I'll do more videos if there's a customer demand for them, Rhiannon.
Okay. Alright, so thank you very much for watching. We're about to pull into a service station because I need the toilet. I'll see you very soon. Bye.
Too much information.